Hello and welcome to one more episode of the Reading Club, The Thinkers. I hope you are having an amazing day here in Portugal. It is sunny outside at this moment. There were cloudy day. It was very cloudy in the beginning of the day, but now the sun is springing a little bit, so that's nice. The sun coming out, and we are going to start this reading club with the ideas from Carl Jung that I observed, and I'm going to translate into you from my words. Okay, so I want to reinforce something that I shared last session, which is the fact that things that start from the psyche, they can become more heavy, and if you don't do something about that, they can manifest into our body, and we can have and it can appear as physical illness, and today these are called psychosomatic illness. The names are evolving and changing all the time, but this is definitely one of the names, which is nothing more or less than the name to illness that is related to the psyche but is manifested into the body. And it can be convulsions, paralysis, catatonia. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Is a really outside the norm name, but I will tell you right in a moment. Catatonia. Catatonia, which is the person being freezed suddenly for hours, for example. And if it is an agitated catatonia, the person can just be shaking with the hand all the time, like temporary blindness, selective deafness, selective deafness. So it's horrible, and it all can start in the psyche. More precisely, if you don't externalize our essential needs and what we need and who we are, it definitely can go throughout our body and manifest into illness like anxiety if you don't address things, if you don't talk. And it is bloody obvious, it's appalling seeing that being manifested into reality and how things can happen, but definitely, and that it happened to me. Something that started from the psyche went to the fucking body without me noticing it. This is why it's so important for us to take care of our mind and body, so we are here and pure healed, because mind will affect the body, body will affect the mind, for sure. That's pure facts. Okay, and it was interesting because there was a person, when I was reading the transformations that hysteria concept had along the time until we see it today, because now hysteria, if it was used today, it would have a really broad scope, having lots of these psychosomatic diseases that I told you, like conversion disorder, between others, which fundamentally it is what I told you. Having a physical disorder that does not correspond to their function of their organs and their body, meaning the person can have headache, but there is nothing going on in the body for us to say, hey, she is having a headache because XYZ is happening on their body. No, we have no fundamental idea of what the hell is going on behind the body for the person to have those types of moments, because the person suddenly stops moving the arm, but we have no evidence that she had the capacity to move the fucking arm. It's just psychogenetic, comes from the psyche, and definitely can manifest into the body. So really hard to digest that, but it's fundamentally true, right? So I like a lot the idea of art therapy because of that, because it is a way to express ourselves where we don't feel judged so quickly. Actually, where we don't feel judged, it's just us producing what the hell is going on with the flow, and it is a way for us to do some kind of catharsis. And Liz da Silveira believed that she could treat schizophrenia patients with this approach of being more human to them, talking to them, being more humanistic, and also she put at them doing art therapy, drawing mandalas and other types of stuff, in hoping that they were getting better. And I think she got some results. I'm watching the documentary again right now, so really interesting to see that, and how we should really express and accept our darkness and our primitive instincts of our psyche and our desires, express and manifest out into the world, because if we don't, we can definitely have some bad consequences. But it's always an equilibrium, right? Because we can definitely fall into the category of following our impulses without any kind of restriction, like in a hedonistic way, and being slaves of that. And of course, we can fall also in the category of neglecting our own instincts, which is also really bad too. So there should be a path in the middle, and I think the path, it is something like God/consciousness. I put God as our consciousness, and that manifests into reality somehow. And that's a path, that's conscious, and of course an equilibrium between both, I would say, because definitely socially we don't want to do some weird things just because it is impulses. We should be able to control ourselves, and sometimes it is repressing instincts. But of course we want to satisfy our needs in a way that is socially acceptable, and that can fall definitely into the hedonistic side. When we have some consciousness, when we do things with a purpose and we have consciousness, we have a higher purpose, I believe that's all falls apart like instantly. It is not a problem, this equilibrium. I believe that. And of course, we know this too for a fact in some way, meaning sometimes we want to let them work, but the person does not feel like to work. But if it is really important, the person will do the work, even if it is hard. And at the end, the person will feel good because did the work, because it felt that he had a meaning in their life, and the person was useful. And that's also serving the purpose of God, I believe, direct or indirectly. But I think that's an interesting thing to share. So I think that's good to know. I put some scientific articles below on these types of physical diseases that are from the psyche/mind. Even though some people or some scientists argue that they don't know if it is really from the psyche or if there's really something in the body that is coming. Well, we can see on this perspective and the paradigm that we are adopting that is definitely from the psychic side, because Freud was able to cure people just by talking to them. And we are talking about physical illness and these experiments of selective deafness, of people only listening to some stimulus that interested them, but they weren't able to hear things that they were supposed to hear. There was nothing on going on with their body. So I think that's really interesting to know as well. Okay. Definitely we should have that in our knowing. Also, I said in one of the episodes before, in the Portuguese or English, that some diseases, physical diseases, come from the psychic order, fruit of repression or incapacity to satisfy their own needs. But what I want to touch here is a part of trauma, meaning I share that trauma, it is more than the situation, it is what the person makes of the situation. And this is definitely truth. If in a psychodynamic way of speaking, if the person attributes meaning to the situation of trauma, like how the hell this can happen, so in a really inconceivable way, the person will feel traumatic to this event. And these attributes of meaning, they are conscious and unconscious. The amygdala also takes in place. So there are some predispositions to add certain meanings to situations. And I believe, according to Carl Jung theory, if you adopt the perspective that of course all humans have a shadow, meaning we have primitive instincts. We are capable of feeling good while doing something bad, and when we address that and we lighten that on us, we can for sure, I believe, reduce the probability of being such a traumatic events during social events during the day, for example, with situations that for some people are traumatic, very traumatic, just somebody misrendering somebody without having the intention to, or somebody making a small mistake and saying something that is socially reprehensible, like generating trauma. And we can definitely embrace our shadow, knowing that, even though it's really hard for people. And that's, I think it's good to share this Carl Jungian knowledge, because in fact, when we discover that, we embody that, and we believe on that, we can understand ourselves better, and we can have more compassion towards other persons. So we don't feel so bad, and of course it is not so traumatic, because we can be expecting things that we will not be able to expect if we understand that everybody has a shadow, everybody is capable of doing bad. And that is just not the case if we just act out in the world based on what's socially acceptable, because human beings are more than just what is socially acceptable. They have darkness too inside of them. Every single human being has darkness inside of them, the capacity to do bad. It is not just because people pretend that it doesn't exist, because it definitely exists. And the faster persons accept that and embody that, the easier it is to go on with the world. Saying this, I also put some references below that say that, of course, biology matters, meaning genetics matter, of the person, the ADN, DNA, the DNA matters, the context matters, the context that the person was growing up, the cultural meaning where the person was growing up, of course it matters, but fundamentally we can say it is also attributed meaning to the situation, even if it's unconscious based on previous experience of how the person acts and feels out in the world. So that's a fact. For me, it's a goddamn fucking fact. That's we know for sure. So I think that's also some interesting good to know. And this made me think and realize that previously the repression that we did on women, it was definitely contributing to these types of hysteria, right? If you have a woman and you have some desires that you want to do something, like having a role of power in society, in a more higher state, playing a role in political parties, having high degree education, going to university. It wasn't possible previously for women, having a vote. And now it is can. So imagine you having that desire and need and not being capable to adopt it into your life. That will be disaster. So you know that even if you talk, you do not get what you want. Even if you talk, you will not get any of your needs motherfucking met. Never, none, zero in this field. So it is definitely easy to understand why some girls will suffer some hysteria at those times, repressing those feelings. And of course, if you repress the feelings and emotions, it's going to manifest into the body, and we knew that they would be in a restrictive cultural context where they couldn't do anymore. Like my colleague Marisa Fernandes was saying, they were treated like objects sometimes in families. Go marry that guy, you marry that guy. So it fucking sucked, right? So it's definitely understandable why most women that suffered from hysteria, comparing to men. But of course, men also suffered from hysteria. And there's a scientific article below if you want to read that talks about that. And says that we discovered after some times that men also suffer this hysteria. If it was today, you of course knew for sure that men also suffer from hysteria. So really amazing. Also, this it is not an absolute truth for sure, because there was women that went and could do this outside norm, and they generated some noise. They went outside with their posters, votes for women, let's fucking go. They started a revolution. They started making some noise in society, which is good. And why Jordan Peterson was saying that we should integrate the capacity for aggression when we are talking, because when we talk, if we embody the capacity to be aggressive in a socially acceptable way, then we can definitely show people that we are not joking, and we are less susceptible to suffer bullying, even in these most extreme ways, but even in the most subtle ways of aggression that other people can throw at us. For example, I will tell you a story in university. I was in the university, and I was pretty goddamn fucking neutral on what the hell I was going to say on the communication. I was pretty neutral in my understanding. So people know that I was not capable of doing anything wrong slash being emotionally upset with you, and make that confrontation in a way that could go catastrophic. I was more prone to say, oh, I'm sorry, and move on, but in a very neutral way. And this little fucking girl was just poking at me all the goddamn fucking time, poking at me. And I told her in a really neutral way, hey, stop doing that, please. And she continued to goddamn fucking do it. It was unbelievable. It was not bullying. If I was going to raise the hand and say to teacher, she probably would say something like, come on, move on, you are an adult man, solve the problem yourself. But I already told her, hey, you should not do that. And she was continuing to poking me on the head, on my body. So it is a really interesting situation, because socially nobody will cares about that. So you have to impose yourself. But I lettered previously that me communicating that in a goddamn non-verbal, neutral way, communicated and signaled to her, hey, you could poke me anywhere you want, because I won't do anything. I'm not capable of any harm. And it was the goddamn fucking hard lesson for me to learn these last 2 fucking years, because if you don't embody the capacity to aggression, and we show that when we talk, we fucking can get eaten every fucking day, because people will take advantage of that, even unconsciously. Even if they are the most beautiful persons in the world, they definitely can take advantage of you, because you did not show that capacity to aggression, meaning that you are your body, and your body and your emotions are aligned with what the fuck you said. Because if I definitely communicated there that I mean it, like, stop it, she will stop. Or I will just like raise a voice, do anything just so she could stop. Of course, without any physical aggression, but that's the ultimate decision. If you are on a place that people don't respect you and what you say, like, you go out from the place. you remove from the place, because if you talk and then nothing happens, what the hell you can do? You're not going to fight, except if you have to. But we can definitely have to fight in some places. We live in real life, so you leave. Or at least you show your capacity for aggression in one way or another. So that was a hard fucking lesson for me to learn. Let me share with you. But it's motherfucking true, bro. Motherfucking true. So realizing that capacity for aggression, incorporating that into our daily life, it's a must. It's a must, and it was a hard lesson for me. Definitely made me waste some last 2 years of my life, and I went to a fucking rabbit hole. God damn. So that's why we should fortify our ego, and I will talk about that in a moment. Okay, so we should incorporate our capacity for aggression. Okay. Now, in relation to theory of trauma, I also want to add that in how the book unfolds, he also started saying that attributing meaning to the situation is more important than the situation itself, but also says another thing, which is he continues the story, which I'm going to tell you about in a second, which is a young lady was living in St. Petersburg in 1905, January 1905, and it is occurring a massacre in their place, their city more specifically. So people were getting killed, there's troops in the city, and she could hide, not getting shot, lived, and no trauma. Then she continues their life, and she has another similar event, but a lot more lighter, which is she is in a horseman car, for the lack of better words, a horseman car, and the driver gets the horses out of control, like meaning they win like semi-savage impulse. They are just running away like wild horses, and the driver jumps, and the girl also has to jump. She has some fear, but the driver says jump, and she finally jumps and gets safe. And apparently she survived, no trauma. But then suddenly, later, some years later, the girl is feeling attraction for two boys. One boy, it is single, and the other boy, it is the spouse of their best friend. So trouble, right? So she said to herself that she was attracted to the first man, the single guy. And that's how life goes on. She quickly approximated to him. They were getting very intimate. And suddenly, she is in a position where it is a little bit intimate with the spouse of her best friend. Meaning a day she is playing with their ring, and the ring jumps outside her finger. Both boys are seeking the ring, and one finds the ring, which is the spouse of their best friend's spouse, and she's going to giving to her, and he says, "Do you know what this means?" And she throws the ring away and acts like if nothing happened. So they are having encounters like this where she feels a little bit of attraction, and there's a day that they are all on vacations, and the best girl, her best friend, he starts to feeling a little bit of envious, jealously, and or their intuition. But as she didn't have any fact, she doesn't say it, and she decides to stay at home. She is having a little bit of a stress, let's say. So now her spouse, I'm saying spouse, it's fucking husband. Her husband is going to the boat with her, and on the boat, they are both alone. She falls into the ocean, and his husband of the best friend, is rushing to save her, brings her to the boat, and then now magic happens. Well, guess what? She started to get kissed by him. And I guess she liked it. There was an interruption in the story here, but that definitely happened. So she was neglecting to herself that she was attracted to this little boy, to this boy that is just the husband of her best friend. So she is neglecting her own instinct of being attracted to this own boy. But it happens from time to time, and her unconscious also provides for these types of situations, like the ring jumping outside the finger, right? This suddenly, whatever the hell this happens, to fall outside the ocean. So it's amazing. It's amazing to see this. And there's the day where some voice is played on her head, saying, "Today you will find a moment to be alone with him." And this day, at this night, is just right before a dinner that she is having with the other three people. Her boyfriend, the best friend, and the husband of the best friend. And they are doing this symbolic dinner because the girl has the spouse from the boy, which is her best friend, has to go outside to get a cure because she was bad, even though she was happy, according to their words. And when they are coming outside, horses came by with full speed, vroom, vroom, and the other three persons, they just stand back so the horses can cross and go along with their life. And the girl that we are talking here, which is the main character, she starts running completely and in an unreasonable manner to the river, just like does not stop running even though there is no danger anymore occurring, which is amazing. And the doctor is listening to all this story, and she stops suddenly at this part because he stops, and then he continues to talk with her and her with him, and she ends up saying that she was unconscious, and then she woke up in the house of the husband of her girlfriend, and with him saying, "Hey, we are alone here," something like that. So somehow she got a way to self-sabotage himself in a way that he is at home with the husband of his girlfriend. And well, initially the diagnosis was, well, it was a trauma because he had a bad experience in the past with the horses, so she's now it is having a more intense reaction. But guess what? No, because previously she had a story with horses that was more bad and she had no trauma. And the conclusion that they got, it was that it wasn't because of the trauma in itself, but it was an excuse for an unconscious conflict to arise in itself and show up in the world as an excuse, being camouflaged with the horse situation, with the horse problem. And it is amazing because apparently it is true, and because all behind of that it is a conflict, an erotic conflict or sensual conflict, if you want to call it that way. Sensual conflict, erotic conflict is the way that we describe it in Portuguese. And it is amazing because really definitely neglecting our own instincts, it is motherfucking bad, right? She will just accept that it is feeling attraction for her husband, it will be much better because she could have find strategies to, at least contemporarily speaking, to stop that feelings, maybe giving space to the couple, moving away, or just doing something differently, talking with the goddamn therapist. And it is really interesting to see this because it is unconscious, these unconscious conflicts that can be governing your life. So pretty fucking bad. So I think that's a cool thing to share, right? An unconscious conflict can rise up and make us have stupid reactions / unexpected reactions. And this has to related to trauma because when you neglect your instincts, your darker instincts, I argue that you are more prone to get traumatized, right? Because if you think the world is fucking beautiful and fucking perfect and everything is fucking shiny and fucking sunshines and fucking stars, then you are definitely more prone to be traumatized because the world, it is just not what the fuck you are expecting. So it's really funny. I really think that this Jungian view, it should be more manifested out into the world, because it definitely can help people to not get traumatized so quickly. For example, a soldier that goes out into the battle and some part of him feels good, feels entertaining, the war. So, and he is not habituated to that, because it is not in congruence with his inner feelings, inner constructs of being a human being. And even on him, how the hell can I feel fucking satisfying and pleasure in shooting in the goddamn fucking war? Because you are a fucking human being. You have unconscious impulses and instincts that are on your shadow that you are not aware of, and they can manifest into the world when the context is right for it, right? And it is neglecting our dark side that can make, as Jordan Peter says and points out perfectly, totalitarian states to rise, and to people start lying all the time to themselves, definitely, to themselves and to others. So accepting the darkness that you have, other people have, is definitely very good for a good and healthy psychological development. And I hope that I had this vision shared with me just 2-3 fucking years ago. My whole life will be completely fucking different. Anyways, that's it. That's my second idea to share with you at this moment in time. If you want to make any comment, person that is watching, feel free for it, man. So I have one more idea, which is the transference and I don't know how the hell you say these in English terms, in these therapeutic terms, but in Portuguese, the translation, it is something like counter-transference. Transference, it is the unconscious impulses that the client can project into his therapist. Meaning, if he is feeling needy, he can somehow look to fill up that desire, projecting that need into the therapist, falling in love for him, making him falling in love for her, seduction, flirting. And this can be definitely reciprocal, meaning there can happen counter-transference where the therapist give back these flirts, these signals, these tips back, so it feeds that. That's bad for a therapist, of course. And also, it can happen even if it is not from the client. It can even happen from the therapist in itself, bringing his own stuff to the table inside the therapeutic framework, which is bad, of course. So if the therapist is needy, also it can somehow be sexually aroused by the client, and can have some behaviors according to that. So it's pretty bad. Pretty bad, but that's nice to know, right? Because this can definitely happen with more than just a client. This can happen with friends, family, for sure. Like you can project and making transferences to other people that has nothing to do with the hell the conflict it is within you. So that's nice to know. Also, I think that's useful to share. Also, here a critique about society a little bit. It is that it's useful to understand and incorporate the will of power that we all have. Because instead of neglecting, accepting it, it is much more easier, especially when that is removed outside the shadow and we entered in contact with that instinct somehow, so we felt it like, ooh, power. When a person neglects that, it's pretty bad when it activated their own shadow, because if it neglects and suppresses, it can definitely be pointing fingers a lot more easier at others, pointing fingers at others, saying that's the powerful man that needs to be shut down. That's power, that's bad, and it's all a fucking goddamn projection, because they don't have this instinct incorporated, which is inherently to the human life, the will to conquer, to have power, some kind of power, just having a family gives you some kind of power, just having knowledge gives you power, being a professional gives you power about about the stuff you are going to do, and that's inherently to the social human being, that it is something inside of him that can activate that will to power. Of course, it cannot manifest, but it can definitely manifest, especially if it manifests and it is neglected or suppressed. So that's really useful to know, because I see that's what happens, at least a little bit or a lot, in society, with people pointing fingers at others instead of addressing their own fucking problems, that is not their own fucking problems, psychologically speaking, in this Jungian way, looking to solve the goddamn problems in a more civilized and responsible way, different than just causing more chaos into the society and growing ideological groups or forces of movements that just remove anarchy / chaos in society. To prove that to fortify what I'm telling you, let me read this. It seems inconceivable that can, in some point or in some way, exceeds it in itself, the own person, knowing that it is more than she think it is. But if we let that these inoffensive beings form a mass, in certain circumstances, this mass can originate a delinquent monster. Each individual, it should not be any more than just a small cell. That's not the fuck. What's the right word for this? Cell. I mean, then everybody will be not more than just a minuscule cell in the body of the monster. Wanting or not, there won't be any other way than just not participating in the bloodthirsty madness of the beast, supporting in their strengths, and even though if it is that there is a death feeling of these possibilities of being in the shadow side of humanity, we will just refuse to recognize him, which is fundamentally true. I see this every fucking them side, because these masses are dark, even though they are masked as good and fucking virtuous and fucking shiny, in my conception at least, because they just bring more chaos instead of just finding practical solutions to life. So I think this is really happening today. This is really actual. This is what Jordan Peterson is pointing out, with the totalitarian forces that are rising up in society being more stronger, and we are seeing now more Bill 16, for example, and more rules more rules in jurisdiction and laws to censor human beings, and for us not be able to talk properly because of social correctness, and that's just fundamentally wrong. This is bad for humanity always. What is more good for sure is to share Jungian psychology and more knowledge, like education, being open to question, to interrogate, and to debate in a healthy manner. So that is more one idea. Anyways, it's our animal nature, right? You can fall for chaos for sure if you don't incorporate your animal primitive instincts. Do you like Twilight Sparkle? No. No, I mean, I don't know. I think I already saw that little pony, but I didn't watch any episode of that. Nice image that you have, man. That's a rabbit? No, it's a cat. Amazing. Okay, the fifth and last idea. Love, it is finality and virtuosity and its dark side. Nevertheless, we never see the incountable people that love and believe in their own love just right until they get their own objective. And after that, they just turn around their back as if they never loved. Right? And what if then the nature also does not act like that way? It could exist a love without any finality. If it exists, that kind of love, it will belong to the more higher virtues. And these are fatally quite rare. Besides that, there's maybe a tendency ours to not think a lot in the finality of love. Because if we do, probably we will discover things that will shine some light in a more not in the most beautiful way of our love and value. This put me into a quite reflective mode, thinking that virtuous love, it definitely can exist. It's just quite rare. It is quite hard, because that implies that we listen to our conscience and we do the right thing, even when it is the harder motherfucking thing to do. For example, somebody that it is a little bit harmful and it disrespects the limits of this person, that has a really solidified ego, that knows his strengths, his weakness, and has a really fortified ego with comprehension in this Jungian way, as far as I know. And this person respects itself and respects the other person, so it shows love and compassion for the other person. But as this happens again and again, and there is no predisposition for the other person to change, even though when this person tries to put everything on the table, meaning I have these needs, which are your needs, so you can talk and discuss about it. So there is not any reciprocal act in this way, in this honest way of acting and being. So this person having so much love with this person, what it could do, it will be to, well, continue his goddamn fucking life, but loving him because he is a human being with all his faults and darkness. No matter how bad it behaves, it's just a human fucking being. He has a story behind it. He has a reason for why he acts the way he acts, and there's probably a lot of pain from that, or a lot of inhumanity on him, but it is love. The person loves him anyway, but loves more the person itself, or it respects more itself. That's maybe the right way to put it out. The person respects more in itself, so it moves on with their life, but still loves him. So it doesn't blame him. It doesn't say you are a fucking moron, she's bad, he's bad, he's whatever it is. It just continues with life with pure heart, soul, having compassion for this person, and saying, well, he didn't had behaviors that were aligned with mine. Just saying and talking whatever it happened, but in a way that it is from a place of love, not from a place of dark. I love that, because, well, it is true fundamentally, I believe. And besides being true, we don't see it every day, right? We see the opposite. We see insulting, bad things, completely the motherfucking opposite. So I think it's beautiful. I think it's true. I think it exists. So I think who says it doesn't exist, I think it is fundamentally wrong, because I think it exists. I think it's just really pretty hard, and we have to have a really fortified ego and to be a really strong person in the personal development side, in the psychic side, and of course looking to find and look for the individuation, incorporating the conscious with the unconscious forces, so that you work all on the same side, into the same direction. So that's it. I think that that's true, and I think it's pretty amazing too. Okay. In the Portuguese version, Marisabel Fernandes talk a little bit about Adler, which it is interesting. I'm not going to talk about it here. Because that's from Marisabel Fernandes. I got a little bit understanding. If you want me to talk a little bit what I learned from Adler, or if you want me to talk a little bit what else from Adler, you can just comment on the live stream after it is done, right now, because I definitely learned some things about Alfred Adler. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you. This was the 7th episode of Carl Jung, and bye bye.